Good afternoon, and thank you for attending the first panel of the evening, the development of digital infrastructures in Spain. I would like now to introduce the participants and moderator of the panel. Susana Kurik, country leader for Amazon Web Services, Spain and Portugal. Chris Dimitriadis, Chief Global Strategy Officer at ISACA. Jeff Bullwinkle, VP and Deputy General Counsel, Corporate, External and Legal Affairs of Microsoft EMEA. This panel is moderated by Rodrigo Orihuela, Bureau Chief at Bloomberg, Spain. Before we start with the panel, we are going to have the opportunity to listen firsthand the government's view on this matter by the Minister for the Digital Transformation and Public Administration, Óscar López. Minister, please, yours is the floor. Vamos a hacer una foto de familia.
Okay, so after this show with the photo, I'm sorry for all the speakers. I will go first. So, President of the SID, Steering Committee, sponsors, authorities, speakers from Amazon, ISACA, and Microsoft, dear colleagues, it is an honor to address you before the next discussion panel on the development of digital infrastructures in Spain. Spain Investors Day has become a huge spotlight in the European economic agenda, and these 2 days are an example of the great momentum of our country. Nevertheless, the Spanish stock market, as you know, is living now its golden era. The IBEX 34 led the global race in 2025. Its current success goes beyond the figures and portrays the current Spanish industrial renaissance. Back in 2007, the most valued companies, just an example, were linked to construction and steel here in Spain. At the end of 2025, Indra and Solaria led the charts thanks to their impressive projects oriented towards sophisticated domains like green power or cybersecurity. This is no coincidence. This is the outcome of our most ambitious public policy ever, the Next Generation Funds. Headlines accumulate talking about our astonishing GDP growth and other macroeconomic outputs, and we are glad and proud. But we are also working on deeper and long-term issues like our digital sovereignty. Digital sovereignty becomes a must when the world is shifting. And digital sovereignty means infrastructure to change the landscape, innovation to boost productivity, talent to lead the process, and rules, also rules, to protect the people. A combination that leaves no one behind and gathers citizens, companies, the academia, and democratic institutions. A formula that has been implemented by the government of Spain, especially since 2020. Let me please give you some examples. After more than 3 billion euros invested in connectivity, Spain has reached the global tops on capacities like 5G, with over 96% of penetration. I'm talking about connectivity, 96% 5G in Spain. Our digital upskilling programs have reached over 2 million people and tens of university chairs on AI, microchips or cybersecurity, spread across all the country. Spanish deep tech ecosystem grew over 3% last year and carries on over 13% 100,000 high-value jobs. Thanks to the Spanish Society for Technological Transformation, we help disruptive companies flourish everywhere in Spain, from the Canary Islands, featuring the semiconductor metrology leader Buptix, to Extremadura, featuring an upcoming factory of single crystal diamond chips in partnership with Diamond Foundry, and both our national strategy on AI and our national strategy on quantum technologies represent over 2 billion euros of public investment in projects like ALIA, our sovereign language model, or CardioMentor, monitoring patients that suffer from heart diseases. As you can see, the government of Spain has a clear path towards the digitalization of our country, especially when it comes to critical infrastructure and technologies. Hence, some recent headlines. Stanford University recently confirmed that our country has become the 7th global power in its global AI vibrancy ranking. We have the 4th highest annual growth rate of industrial robots, the 3rd place in public spending on AI contracts, and we won the silver medal in the training of higher-level ICT graduates right after United States, second after United States. In 2019, just before the pandemic, this same report placed us in the 31st position. We have climbed 24 places, and we have overtaken countries such as Japan, Germany, France, or Canada, according to this report. And last but not least, dear Paco Salcedo, Microsoft Global AI Adoption Report placed Spain as the 6th fastest country in the world when it comes to the expansion of generative AI. Over 41% of Spanish citizens have already adopted this technology, outnumbering by far the 16% world average. Just imagine, 41 in Spain, 16 in the world average. These acknowledgements confirm that our formula is succeeding and that our economic policy has perfectly worked along with our regulatory drive. Spain is implementing the European Acts on AI, digital services, and media freedom. And we are working on rules that protect our children from cyberbullying, disinformation, or sexual deepfakes. Because humans had to create traffic lights right after cars. So that's why we defend regulation. The discussion panel that follows my speech will have a great debate on these and other critical topics. But let me be crystal clear. Spain believes that Europe's fate relies on finding a balance between innovation, welfare, and the rule of law. Dear colleagues, you are about to hear some of the most powerful voices on the digital agenda. Prior to such roundtable, let me finish with fresh news regarding the Spanish commitment to the development of digital infrastructures. I am glad to announce that the government of Spain will include Madrid, together with Catalonia, to build a strong candidacy for Europe's upcoming generation of AI gigafactories. In times of intentional division, this example of cooperation between territories and administrations will make Spain an unstoppable AI champion within the European Union. The joint public-private investment might mean over 4 billion euros to make this gigafactory come true. And I'm confident that Spain will get it, and we will become home for one of Europe's first gigafactories, because we are full of vision and ambition. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much to Minister Lopez for the introduction and the speech. And let me thank everybody for being here, especially the three panelists, Susanna, Chris, and Jeff. And so to kick off the chat, Spain for years has been at the forefront, at least in Europe, when it comes to certain infrastructure. That's the underlying infrastructure for technology. It's a leader in fiber optic broadband. It is crucial for undersea connections for Europe with the rest of the world. It's also the home of Europe's first telecom tower company. But in recent years, with the boom of AI, it has also become a big growing market, and I don't need to tell you this, for data centers, right? So we have a lot of data center development. Amazon's biggest investment in this arena outside the US is in Spain. Microsoft has a big data center development here as well. So my initial question to our three panelists, and maybe let's start with Chris, who can give us the global perspective. Sure. Why is Spain interesting compared to other countries? Like when you look at the world and say, okay, Spain is interesting, but why?
Definitely. I think we heard Minister Lopez that all of the prerequisites that attract investors are satisfied in Spain. We heard about a stable economy, a growing economy. We heard about investments in renewable energy, about submarine cables, a great fiber optics network. So this country is definitely has put in place the right frameworks, took the right initiatives, and has managed to create all of those this baseline that is needed to attract investors in terms of those digital infrastructures, data centers, and of course around AI. That doesn't mean that there are no challenges, and we see those challenges in many countries around the world. I would just identify one challenge. I'm trying to respond to the why Spain, but what challenge may be present. And I believe that the main challenge right now is around cybersecurity, especially as we're seeing an environment, while we're seeing an opportunity for accelerated growth. Whenever we see in a country, in a region, an opportunity or the establishment of accelerated growth through technology as an innovation, we also see the magnification of cybersecurity risks, primarily because in most of the cases, most of the times, there is no adequate infrastructure as far as cyber is concerned in order to protect and create a more trustworthy digital ecosystem that can really provide the benefits that it promised to its stakeholders.
Okay, so thanks very much for that explanation. Now, if I can segue into Susanna, why has Amazon found Spain an attractive place to build its AWS developments?
Various reasons. I think many of them were mentioned by the minister. But when we see, for us, when we came here, we were born in 2006. We came to Spain in 2012. In 2019, we decided that we would build infrastructure for cloud. Is what we're talking about now. And now we are seeing the transformation with our 15.7 billion investment over the next 10 years on how we are really pioneering and transforming Spain, becoming that, it's kind of pivoting from north to south of Europe, and Spain is a major player there. And reasons, the geographical location is one. It's clear that from Spain you can serve many parts of the world and with the infrastructure that exists today. And also when we look at the customers when we get into a country, we look at what type of ecosystem do we have, the innovation players, the startups. Cabify is a player that is running on our infrastructure. BBVA, from EBIX 35, 75% of EBIX 35 is using our infrastructure. These are important things when we see that there needs to be an ecosystem that we can lay on that perspective. A third, and I think an important component that we also decide when we invest is access to renewable energy. And when we opened the door in 2022, they are operated by renewable energy, and that's one of an important criteria for us, that we want to make sure that all our operations are run by renewable energy, and that we can actually give back when we look at the energy that we use, and also now especially we have a water project to be able to give back more water than what we're using in our infrastructure. So these are a couple of components. And then a third one and a fourth one, the private and public collaboration. I think what we've seen in Spain is on a national level, the support on policies and how to make sure that infrastructure can be built at the speed that we need. And then the regional authorities, how we enable, we choose in Aragon, and how we can see that Aragon has really supported with their PIGA process. I think has been a key success. We're actually, and we talk a lot about that with the ministry, we're actually taking the capacity of how to simplify bureaucratic processes. We're actually sharing that with the rest of other European countries. And I think that's something that Spain really has been unique about. And I think that is something that for us has been critical as well.
That's what you're saying is a big disappointment to a lot of politicians and journalists and people out there, because everybody keeps complaining about bureaucracy and the lack of collaboration.
But I think we have to start to see that.
You're putting it in value. You're giving...
Because I can tell you, Amazon does a lot of analysis.
Yeah.
When we should, we
That's
had the
super
phase
interesting.
1, this is phase 2, and the 15.7 billion, this is not something you do. So it's been, and these are all factors that are built into that.
And the fact that you're sharing what you learned about bureaucratic processes with other countries is quite
staggering. I have my team here, and they've been to many of European countries sharing. Actually, we're actually taking the government of Aragon to share with other regions around.
That's super interesting, yeah, because it does put in value what you see in Spain, right? Yeah. So. And Jeff, what's left? What can you tell us about why Microsoft finds Spain interesting?
Well, I have to first of all, I guess, start by saying I agree with everything that's been said so far, and I think this is an area where there would be broad agreement across this panel, including with what the minister said so well at the very beginning in terms of why Spain is for us such an exciting market, and has been, by the way, for many, many years. We celebrated as a company our 50th birthday last calendar year. We've been here in Spain for nearly 40 of those 50 years, investing quite heavily. But most recently, indeed, it has been this focus on data center and infrastructure investments to power the most sophisticated AI models that people are finding so exciting today in every aspect of business. We're, to be clear, very invested across Europe because we do think it's important for us to be able to provide our customers and partners and key stakeholders with the ability to host and process data within the European Union. That's certainly true also at the national level, which is why here in Spain we've also been very, very heavily invested in infrastructure as well. We've already got a data center in the community of Madrid, which has many customers benefiting from that, but have announced also, much like AWS, some forward-looking investments. And so over the course of time, we'll have about 10 billion euros or so invested in new regions in Aragon and 3 separate facilities in Aragon, part of the overall fabric that we have across the European Union. And there are various things, again, that I would just simply repeat and echo that others have said about why Spain. It really gets to everything the minister said in his opening remarks, and that has been our experience, to be sure. The focus also again, on energy and sustainability for us is paramount too. We consume a lot of power, and that has been increased in this era of AI, but we're focused also on making sure that we are going to be true to our commitments around sustainability and environment that we announced actually about 5 years ago. We said that by the year 2030, we would be carbon negative, water positive, and zero waste. We can do that, and we will do that, by the way, by 2030, precisely because we can invest in countries like Spain that are going to be able to help us ensure that our data centers are running on clean, renewable energy. So that's a huge component as well. A second thing I would, again, I think just echo that others have said, is the level of support that we've had both at the central government level, but also really at the regional level, because all of us indeed are investing in different regions. And these exercises are, after all, really hyper-local exercises. We go into a community, we build, we invest, and want to make sure we do so in a way that reflects the responsibilities of the role that we occupy as a technology provider. And so the level of collaboration, communication we've had with government leaders, both regionally and centrally, has been really unparalleled here in Spain. A third point I'd also get to, I think, does also reflect what others have said as well, which is around how dynamic and how much growth there is in this economy, precisely because of this opportunity with AI. The minister mentioned actually the report that Microsoft published only a week ago. This AI diffusion report is what it's called. And as the minister pointed out, Spain, in fact, ranks number 6 in terms of AI adoption and uptake globally, not just in Europe, but globally. UAE is number 1. Perhaps that wouldn't surprise anybody in this room. Singapore, number 2. The other 4 markets are, in fact, European markets, and one of which is Spain. So that's very exciting. If we're going to be investing so heavily any place, we want to make sure that what we're building is, in fact, going to be used and useful to people who are here. So for all these reasons, we're very excited about where we are so far and what the future has in store for us as well.
Now, when we talk about all the boom around AI consumption and the infrastructure required for that, the other side of this discussion is regulation around AI and the risks that are presented around AI. So we have both the analysis or the view from the consumer side, what does regulation mean, how we have to protect. There's also the concerns from the investor side. If we put in too much regulations, or if there's too much regulatory uncertainty, how does this affect investors' views on what this means for doing business in this area in any country? I wanted to ask Chris first a bit, like how do you see the situation right now around regulation, AI, and how this could potentially affect investor appetite for these assets?
Regulation is definitely extremely important because we need to serve the European values. You have to protect the citizens and the rights of the citizens, and at the same time, I think it's important for vendors and the integrators because they know what they need to comply with. They have a roadmap. Now, there has been a lot of discussion about overregulation, especially between the United States and Europe, and definitely there is a need to maintain or create a balance between serving the interests of the public and protecting the citizens in terms of addressing risk at the end of the day, and between giving enough flexibility to the market in order to be able to grow and innovate at a pace that is competitive to other jurisdictions. How much regulation is good regulation or enough regulation? There is definitely not a single answer to that, but when we think AI, I believe that especially in Europe, we also have to consider the whole supply chain. First of all, the whole supply chain and the fact that part of the service providers may belong to a supply chain that is not within the boundaries of the European Union. So we have to make sure that we provide enough opportunity for them to deliver value to Europe. And B, from what we've seen from a global perspective, it's extremely important to put AI into context. It's different to discuss about AI or a strong or tight regulation for critical infrastructure, and this is, of course, one of the high-risk areas under the new AI Act in the EU, and it's different to discuss AI in a different industry that has that may cause less impact to the general public. I'll finish my statement with an example, and this is something we know very well because we were part of these discussions with the Department of Defense in the United States. They have passed a regulation with very clear and strict compliance requirements about all the companies that operate in the defense industrial base. And we do know that the defense industry is one of the very or highly sensitive industries if you consider all the sectors of the economy of a country. This is a good example where a tighter framework, compliance requirements are definitely necessary in order to protect the interests of a country and, of course, to secure the supply chain of that industry. So there may be other examples where a regulation may provide a more burden or overhead or cost to the vendors, to the companies that operate in that industry. But again, this should be subject, I guess, to more discussion. And while the AI Act is being, propagated, applied, and forced in its stages throughout European member states.
Okay, that's interesting. Jeff, from a different perspective, slightly different. I think Microsoft recently presented or published, or I don't know what the precise word is, your commitments regarding this in the EU. What does that mean? Why do you think there's a need as a corporation, to make commitments regarding AI and how you treat it, and why is this important for trust in the usage of AI?
Thanks for the question, and the references to an announcement that Microsoft's Vice Chair and President Brad Smith made about 8-9 months ago in Brussels, which he described at the time as our European digital commitments. And the reason we felt it important is that this does feel to be a moment in time when trust in technology has become an issue, and that, again, over the course of my own time even at Microsoft, there have been a couple of major inflection points where you might argue that trust has become an issue. Go back 12 years when Edward Snowden first disappeared from the U.S. with 4 laptops and went initially to Hong Kong and then to Russia, where he is to this day. As information was revealed, trust became an issue, trust in technology became an issue as well. And there are various things that we and others did at that time and since that time to try and regain trust. And one thing I learned when I was living for a time in Amsterdam, as a famous Dutch statesman once said, trust arrives on foot and leaves on horseback. And so it was important post-Snowden, I think, to address those issues of trust. I think it is fair to say that we are living in a time of really dynamic and complex and volatile geopolitics, and that certainly affects companies in every sector, not least of which the technology sector. And so for this reason, we did think it important at this time to announce some core principles. And just very briefly, there were 5. One, effectively, is just a commitment to make sure we are building a broad cloud and AI ecosystem that reflects, to be sure, our own investments as a company, but also recognizing that we are needing to work more and more with local European technology hosters, cloud hosters, and other companies as well on solutions that, if you will, are European solutions as well to support cloud and AI. As part of that as well, we are not confused about the importance of regulation of our services and our data centers here in Spain and across Europe. To be very clear, we are governed by the laws of the countries in which we operate, full stop. And that is certainly true in relation to AI, to privacy, and to a number of other issues that we might encounter. A second commitment, though, we articulated was a focus on digital resiliency, our effort really to make sure we can be a force of digital stability in this era of significant geopolitical volatility. And one thing we have been hearing increasingly about is a concern among people about access to data. Government access to data is one of those common concerns. That's not a new concern that goes back to Edward Snowden. More recently, there's been a concern, I think, that's focused on the possibility that a government someplace in the world might order a technology company to either seize or suspend cloud services. What then is a question we sometimes do get from customers. And so we felt it important to say then that in the event, we think, by the way, a very unlikely event of any order to Microsoft from any government around the world that we would have to seize or suspend cloud services, we would fight back against that order, including through litigation if necessary. And then beyond that, we would also create a structure for continuity of services, again, in the very unlikely event of some situation that would interrupt our own provision of services. And we announced actually recently that the company Delos, which is a company supported by SAP in Germany, would be one of the partner companies with Microsoft to ensure continuity of services, and again, in the very unlikely event of a suspension of cloud services. That was the second part of our commitment. The third was focused on protecting the privacy of European data, which again goes to this recognition we've had for a long time as a company that privacy is a fundamental human right, after all. And this is why GDPR was, for us, a very important development to create, kind of as Chris indicates, a level of clarity, global cohesion, and stability in relation to the world of privacy. So we have applied GDPR protections to our customers across the world, not just citizens of the European Union, and the same goes for our focus on ensuring compliance with the AI Act as well. A fourth element we have is focused on cybersecurity, which everyone obviously is very focused on as well. And finally, there's an element of these commitments that is really emphasizing our interest in trying to make sure we're supporting European companies, Spanish companies, to be competitive in this current environment. The last thing I would say in this regard, and sorry for going on so long here, is that we do believe that regulation of AI is important, and that's why we've been very grateful to be able to talk with stakeholders in Brussels around the development of the AI Act as it's now coming into force. Equally, you do want to have a pragmatic approach that's not going to hinder AI adoption at this really critical moment in time as well. And one thing we have heard about since the Draghi report is the emphasis on the need for simplification where possible. And we would certainly agree that's an important thing. And the last thing we would say is also important around AI regulation is the need for what I would describe as regulatory interoperability. Because we are, after all, trying to provide services that are going to be delivered at scale. And to do that effectively, we need a level of global cohesion in the effort as well.
And so, Susanna, is there anything you want to say about this? What's the main concerns you have from your position regarding regulation and AI, and are there any local sensitivities that one has to bear in mind?
I would like to talk about the adoption of it, because I think I'm in line with what you just said on regulation. I think our position is very similar. But equally, as the minister just said about the adoption in Spain from a public standpoint, there's another report that we have. There's Unlocking AI, the ambition of AI, that shows that last year we reached actually almost 500,000 of companies. It's one company every minute adopting AI, and it's a similar numbers, but it's 50% more growth than the year before, which was 39%, and actually the European average was 40%. So I think we believe that regulation and innovation needs to go hand in hand. Equally as we were born, it was actually this year we're celebrating 20 years. And equally as we democratize the access to cloud, to technology, now it's really about democratizing access to AI to all different players that we have in our ecosystem. And we see that is really happening in Spain, from smaller companies to larger IBEX 35s and to large companies. And in that perspective, companies, the government, the minister didn't mention them, but Multiverse, which is one the government has invested in them. They are using our technology, a company that actually compresses models to be able to use less memory, be more energetic, and that is a Spanish future unicorn. So I think seeing that they are using AI, quantum, to be able to get new services to the market, and that is an excellent example of how Spanish companies are actually giving that service to other companies. Another one, I always like to talk about how this ecosystem is driving innovation with AI and adopting it. Iberia Airlines is another example that they decided to actually close down their data center, and right now they're using AI to see how they can serve the passengers better, how can they operate their maintenance costs, get them down, and they're actually injecting this technology into the processes. And we see the big differences when companies, it's true that you have the startups that have it at the core. The report also shows that the startups has it at the core of what they do. 60% has that as a line of the product for the future, while enterprises, a little bit more legacy, are actually slower in adoption, but still we see the largest IBEX 35s are getting into the speed of it. I think that's an important message to the market, that the Spanish companies are really injecting AI into their processes and to be more competitive, to lower cost, and to serve their customers better.
So basically, the core of the point you're making is that there is high adoption. That means that there is confidence in the service and there's a willingness to innovate.
And I think Jeff said that about trust. Yes. And at least in the old conversation I have is around how should I use AI. And for me, there's no question that I shouldn't do it, but the trust is there.
Okay. The final theme I wanted to touch on with all of you, and maybe we can start with you, Susanne, and then I'll go down. What about talent? What are you doing about, keeping talent, fostering talent, protecting talent, growing talent in Spain? How does that work?
For us, we believe that transformation will not happen if we don't have the right talent, with the right education. That is equally as our commitment to sustainability is one of our key pillars. The other key pillar is talent and education. And there this January in 2025, we actually signed an agreement with the Spanish Ministry of Education to train 500,000 of students across STEM skills to make sure that when they come out to the market, this is of interest to the companies. And then it's not only about addressing the students. We also want to make sure that the ecosystem of companies can inject to those students coming out. And we have something that we call the Tech Alliance. So we have now we're reaching almost 100 companies, 600 universities and education institutions that actually we're matching, helping the education systems to get the right skills, and then making sure that our companies are tapping into that. Because this is one of the biggest blockers of speed of transformation, having the right talent within the company. And then also, for example, we are in Aragon. We have always, when we come to a region, we have a program called In Communities, where we want to make sure not only to give economical impact, but also make sure that the social impact, which is for us education. And there we're working with schools in the region. We actually last year we touched 7,500 students in STEM. And this year we want to see if we can reach around 12,000 students in the Aragon region to make sure that they're prepared for the future. Because without the right skills, the company and the society needs the society to have the right skills.
Okay. Chris, what can you tell us about your view on talent in the industry, in the sector, and if there's anything you can point out about Spain?
Definitely. First of all, I agree with what Susanna said. It all starts with people. So this is, again, a prerequisite for innovation, because people are the ones who will design the right technology, pick the right supply chain, identify risks, address risks, and so on. What we see at the European level is somewhat concerning in terms of the skills gap, both in digital and in more niche professions like cybersecurity, privacy, and overall trust. And this applies to Spain as well. Close to 30% of organizations are having difficulty in hiring as far as digital talent is concerned. When we go to cybersecurity, 60% of the teams are understaffed in Europe. 50% of the organizations are facing retention problems. And this becomes an even bigger problem, because if in a country like Spain, which has taken all the initiative, the effort already in order to close the skills gap, if there are talent wars, as we call them, like organizations from other EU member states or from outside the European Union who are making better offers to those professionals, then this retention problem is only going to grow. We are in coordination with the ministry. We're working with INCIBE. We're working with communities and municipalities across Spain, because this is part of our core mission as a non-profit organization, global organization. We have a very strong community in Spain right now with chapters across the country, and we're working very closely with government in order to answer this question. How do we close the skills gap? Because if we don't close the skills gap, then again, all of this opportunity for innovation through technology may come across risks that they will be very, very difficult to manage, especially as far as talent is concerned in professions like cybersecurity. We need to create that army, as we call it, of professionals in order to create trust in digital ecosystem, more trust in digital ecosystems. We need to create this army in order to be able to fight cybercrime and to be able, again, to create more trusted digital ecosystems. So the stakeholders, the citizens, the economy as a whole can benefit, can gain their true benefits, rather than having to face risks and incidents.
Okay. Jeff, anything I can ask you about your view as a company and yourself on European and Spanish talent?
Well, once again, I think you'll find this panel to be in violent agreement, which is maybe not what you hoped for.
Boring.
I know. There's some disagreement, but fully agree with what Susanna and Chris said, really across the board. I'd say a couple of things. One, of course, the skills you need to really embrace AI effectively are critical to move forward in a way that will have the technology diffused across the whole of every part of the economy, really. I'm reading a book now by a law professor in D.C., Washington, called Technology and the Rise of Great Powers. And his premise, effectively, is that it's not so much where technology was invented for the first time that defines future success from that technology, but rather what country is most effective in integrating it through every different sector of the economy. And he cites various examples in the course of history, including even the printing press, perfected, you might argue, by Johannes Gutenberg in Germany, but actually used most effectively in the Netherlands and the UK, two economies that then effectively prospered beyond all proportion to others in the region, precisely because of the fact that they printed and read more books using the printing press. And AI, I think, is another one of these so-called GPTs, or general purpose technologies, that has the ability, I think, as Susanna was indicating, to animate and bring excitement and innovation to every single sector of the economy, whatever it happens to be, and that's great. But there needs to be talent to be able to use it effectively. I think the good news, again, is that here in Spain, there's so much excitement and so much energy around technology, and we see this in this AI diffusion report that we just published, where, again, Spain, number 6 globally is a pretty remarkable data point that probably would surprise some people in the U.S., which is, by the way, number 26 relative to Spain and number 6 globally. So in many ways, there's already the appetite for technology and active usage as well, but equally need to make sure that the skills are being dispersed in a broader way. And much like Susanna and AWS, we're focused also on doing what we can as a company, but also with the government and with others to make sure we are skilling more people. We have, at this point, actually exposed our AI skilling content to 4 million people in Spain, and have also ambitious goals in the future as well. One thing I'd also point out is that we've identified a partner here, a Spanish company called Founders, that maybe some people here in the room are aware of. It's founded in Barcelona. It's a husband-wife team of entrepreneurs on, I think, their second or third venture at this stage, doing amazing work, really at scale. And so we began working with them here in Spain as a partner in the skilling area. Super successful, so much so they've become a partner for us really at a regional and global level, allowing us to really scale the efforts in exciting sorts of ways. We're only one company, much like AWS is one company, and therefore we have to work with partners in this way, and mainly with the government as well, if we're going to achieve this level of scale in finding talent. The last point I'd make is entirely to agree with Chris in connection with the criticality of cybersecurity in particular. That's a vital element too.
Okay, we're about to run out of time, and so just to summarize a few points I get from what you explained. Reasons, for Spain's success, there are many, but I think the most surprising point everybody's going to take out from here is the high level of adoption. It basically shows that Spain isn't only about building and having the infra here, but that actually leads to people doing things, right? And people don't automatically think of Spain as a country where people innovate in their usage, but that's what you have basically told us and what the minister told us. And also what Susanna pointed out about how bureaucracy is better than people would expect, right? And how it's helping. So thanks a lot for all this, and this has been fascinating, and we're finished, and I was told we would be kicked out if we went over time, and we haven't. So thanks a lot to the three of you, Susanna, Chris, Jeff, and thanks to everybody for the invite.